Hi there, welcome back. So today I'm doing an interview with Rhonda Moret from Elevated Diversity. So Rhonda is somebody that actually connected me. I should say one of my friends connected me with her. They had just hired her to come in and really help with their company, really focusing on a DEI commitment. And I was intrigued. I wanted to know more. I wanted to really kind of go to that next level. So I had reached out to Rhonda and we've been talking, and we are bringing Rhonda in to work closely with our well-oiled operations clients. And as we were talking about this, I said, hey, before we do that, can we have you come on and open this conversation up to everybody on the podcast? And then our round two will be a little bit deeper, I should say a much deeper conversation with our clients. So I'm really excited to be able to bring you Rhonda. She has been so incredible. If you're still not sure how to navigate and how to bring this DEI commitment into your business and make it a true priority, and even understand why you should make it a priority, what this means for your business, how this affects small businesses. I really, really want you to listen to this episode. I truly hope that you don't think, oh, this isn't for me. This is for every type of business out there. So please listen. There is something in here for you to find, for you to think about how to help. She really talks about how the more diverse your business is, those are the businesses that have higher revenues, better bottom lines. Like there are so many reasons and ways to be interested in this topic. So I really hope that you enjoy. I hope that you love Rhonda as much as I do. And then definitely you can find out at the end where to check her out, get more information, possibly hire and work with her as well. So enjoy today's episode. Rhonda, welcome to the show. So excited to have you today.
Stacy, thanks so much. I've been looking forward to this for
Me
several
too.
weeks now to be able to talk to you and talk about one of my favorite topics.
Yes, I'm so excited. And here's the thing, as somebody who knows this is important, I want to publicly share, like, I still get nervous talking about this because I don't want to say something wrong. I don't want to offend anybody. But I also know that my listeners need to know that this is something I am working on and that I want them to understand why they should be working on it too. So
Right.
that's why I'm bringing somebody like an expert like you on, so that you can share and fill us in and start to make the conversation just the norm, that we don't have to feel nervous or uncomfortable or not sure what to say.
Right. And I can't tell you the number of times that we hear that comment.
Yeah.
So I applaud you first and foremost for realizing, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable. I don't want to misstep, but I'm going to put myself out there anyway. I need to learn. I need to get to a place to where it's not an awkward conversation. I mean, years ago, in the workplace, there were three things that you just simply didn't talk about. It was politics, it was religion, and it was race. And now we're seeing those topips.
I mean, is that all we're talking about? Because
exactly.
that is sure what it feels like sometimes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Very
So
different
that is just one of those first steps. And a lot of our programming just starts with having people talk to each other, tell us how you're feeling, tell us what your concerns are. And the other thing that I'll just add very quickly is that there are going to be missteps.
Yeah.
And as long as you say with some grace, it's like, okay, please, if I misstep or say something that might be offensive to someone, know that we are all learning, so it's this process that we're all going through at the same time, really.
I love that. Rhonda, can you share a little bit about your business, like what your background is? And then I will kind of jump in and start asking you some questions.
Yeah, I would love to. So actually, I started my career at an ad agency in Los Angeles many, many years ago. And I just fell in love with that role because I realized that it really embodied some of the things that I had skills at and that I was really drawn to. So being creative and being able to storytell and develop these messages that we would share with the world. Fast forward many years, I found myself wanting to get into business for myself. So we started, not unlike many entrepreneurs, we started heading down one path where we were doing professional development training specifically designed for women. And when I realized, hey, there's a lot of folks that are asking me about unconscious bias training or in inclusive leadership, we kind of did that pivot, and we did
Mm,
a pivot at the right time.
okay.
So that's where we were able to launch Elevated Diversity. And from there, it's just been, we're scaling, and it's a really exciting time to be in this space.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and I'm so excited because this conversation is going to be great. But for those of the people listening that are in our well-oiled operations mastery, we're going
Mhm.
to be going deeper with Rhonda. So if you're one of our current clients, I want you to listen. I want you to take notes because you'll have an opportunity to kind of prompt some questions for us to go deeper behind the scenes. And then we're going to be talking to Rhonda again very soon. So we've
Right?
got some good stuff coming. So first of all, let's just go to the basics. We are
Okay.
hearing the word, the phrase DEI. It is thrown around so much. Can you share what does it stand for? What does it mean?
Well, we hear DEI, and then you're also hearing these variations thereof. So a lot of times you're hearing DEIA,
Yeah.
DEI plus. So there's again, it's an area that's definitely evolving. But if we just start at its core, diversity, equity, inclusion. The definitions itself is pretty simple with diversity. So that means to have individuals from various backgrounds. And a lot of people hear the term diversity and they think, okay, they're talking black and white.
Mhm.
And it goes far beyond just the black and white. So it encompasses one's religion, what their socioeconomic conditions might be, what kind of upbringing, or were they first generation college student? And we also look at even diversity of thought. So it really
Yeah.
runs a spectrum.
Mhm.
So we like to push through that initial instinct of, okay, they're talking about race, because that's,
Right.
yeah, that's one component, but there's several other components. Equity is the one that gets folks tripped up a bit. And there's the way that we like to explain it is it's not necessarily being equal, but it's being equitable in a way that you provide individuals what they need to be successful. So there's different illustrations that you'll see out there, and I'll just describe it really quick. They'll have a race, so a starting line for a race, and you have a white guy on the one lane, and then you've got a black woman in the other lane, and you could see the racetrack, right? For the white male, he has smooth sailing, so no barriers, no obstacles. And then you have the woman who's got various hurdles that she
Yeah.
has to jump over and obstacles that she has to overcome. And he looks at her and he says, okay, well, may the best man win. And we know when you look at that type of illustration, I think it just kind of helps you solidify. It's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, inclusion. So what does that look like? It means that you are part of a team. A lot of
Mhm.
organizations are bringing in different marginalized groups, and they said, okay, well, we have our diversity numbers up, but are they finding ways to really include them and really integrate them into the organization? So that's our really high level look at a DEI definition. But obviously we could go much deeper
Yeah.
and explain how each of those elements are important, not only in the workplace, but in our everyday lives.
Well, and just talking about the importance of it. So, are there people, and I shouldn't say are, I know that they are. There are people out there actively looking to make sure they're joining a company that is focused on this and that are going to. So, can you talk about that? Because I think some business owners might be thinking, why is she talking about this now? Why do we need to know this? Why is this important? And this is very important.
Yeah, right. So I'll start by answering your first question. I'm sure many of your listeners know Glassdoor, right? So when you're a
Mhm.
job seeker, you want to go to Glassdoor, you look at, their reviews, you look at their information on interviews, their how well they compensate, benefits, all that good stuff. I think it was about 2 years ago, Glassdoor added a DEI ranking, which I think just says something, right? It's like,
Yes.
okay, this is becoming mainstream. So
Right.
no longer is diversity, equity, inclusion just kind of something that it's a nice to have and often the fringes. No, it's part of the ethos within an organization.
Right. So
Um,
pretty much somebody could be judging you based off of this rating to decide if they even want to apply to work at your company.
Absolutely. And where we're seeing that come from is millennials. Millennials are
Mm,
much more, I don't want to say the word woke because I just don't like
yeah.
that term, but they're much more aware.
Mm,
They're aware of how critical it is to have some representation and a diversity of
yeah.
thought and experiences and perspectives. So we really have seen a push
Mhm.
from the millennials. Also, if you just look at demographics in our country, I was reading a book yesterday, and the phrase is brown is the new white. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, that's catchy, but B, it's very true.
Yeah.
If you look at any of the Census Bureau numbers and their projections, we're just becoming a much browner country. So organizations that are looking to be ahead of the curve, they're
Mm,
saying, okay, we
wow.
know we're going to have more folks that fit into that category
Yeah.
as we move forward. What do we need to do now to make sure that we're prepared for that new workforce?
Wait, that is really interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's interesting, yeah, but it's also a situation where some of these organizations are realizing, okay, we got to act now, and that's why
Right.
our business,
Proactive.
frankly, is so brisk, because organizations are realizing, okay, this isn't a passing fad. It didn't go away with George Floyd's murder. It's
Right.
still here and
I
living.
actually have a feeling somebody's going to be thinking, why is she doing this conversation now? Like this many years later? It's like, no, no, no. This has nothing to do with all of a sudden going through Black Lives Matter. This is something that is going to be here forever. And it was here before the
Right.
Black Lives Matter movement. It just really, I think, had some light shed on it.
Right. And the other thing that I'll share is, a lot of people look at this as, okay, this is a nice thing to do. We're being much more inclusive, and that
Yeah.
gives me that warm fuzzy. However, there is a strong business case for
Yeah.
DEI. So whether it's Deloitte, McKinsey, they've all got their studies and surveys that show diverse and inclusive organizations just financially perform better. They're
Right.
more innovative, and they just have a better bottom line
Mhm.
because they have that diversity, and they've got, instead of blind spots, they have individuals from different perspectives. So
Right.
it just makes all the sense in the world,
Yeah.
from strictly from a business perspective. Even if you didn't care about the other things, it's like, okay,
Right.
what do I need to do to ensure that my business is going to be healthy, and we can outperform our competitors?
Right. And I think a lot of times when we are hiring as a small business owner, and a lot of people don't know how to hire, right? So what
Mm.
happens is they just bring on people that they like, that
Yeah,
look like them, that sound like them, that have the same values as them, right? So all of
right.
a sudden you've hired you, like six of you, because
Right.
you might be a little bit, I don't want to say insecure, but I was definitely insecure in the beginning of hiring because I didn't know what I was doing. I was probably more nervous than they were in the interview as a new business owner. So I think, as people are getting more into this, you have to ask, how diverse is the thought process behind in your business, in your team? How diverse, like, is the strengths and the weaknesses? If everybody has the same strengths, the same opinions, the same areas of expertise, that's definitely not a business model you want to go down.
Right. Well, what was the adage before that? You always hire individuals that can help you compensate
Yes.
or complement your strengths, your weaknesses.
Mhm.
So I think it's just taking that one step further. And to your point, and we do this all the time too, when we have a new prospect call us and say, hey, we're interested in doing XYZ. One of the first things we do is jump on their website, look at their leadership team,
Mhm.
and quite often it's um, far too many men, far too
Mhm.
many white men.
Yeah.
And we realize, okay, that's a starting point for us. And it all goes back to recruiting. And then also, again, to that point is, once you have somebody within your organization, what are you going to do to make sure that you retain them? I mean, it's one thing to bring
Yeah.
someone in, but if you're not able to retain them, what does that look like? And I think one of the examples is for women. Some organizations have these learning and development tracks for women, which
Mhm.
makes all the sense in the world, because if you're able to help groom those women, eventually they will get up to the C-suite. So
Yeah.
that's what makes, again, all the sense in the world, to make those investments and put those types of programs and initiatives into place.
Yeah. Well, and even speaking men and women. So my team is primarily women.
Right.
And even part of me gets nervous of that, of not
Right.
having a man's perspective or
Right.
having just something different, especially because I don't just coach women, I
Right.
also coach men. So if
Right.
I'm all women and we're trying to coach more men, how are we going to be able to strategically think about that?
Right. And it's interesting that we are talking about this, because I have another client who is all female.
Yeah.
And yeah, 10 years ago, that was like, yay, yay, all
Yeah.
women, all girl power.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, is that necessarily a good thing?
Right. I
You're
really
absolutely
perceive,
right.
yeah,
You
I
are missing a perspective there.
I am. I love that there's these amazing, strong women. They're incredible, but I definitely can see why it could hurt us by not having some men in that room for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you talked about inclusion a little bit. So what role does inclusion play? Like, what does that look like?
Well, if you bring in an individual, let's say it is a woman,
Okay.
to an all male leadership team, inclusion is one of those things where you want to say, yes, we're being inclusive, and she has a seat at the table, but does she really have a voice at the
Yeah.
table? So even there, with some of the programs that we do, is really identify some really practical strategies that individuals can do when they want to truly create an authentically inclusive environment. So something might be, males have a tendency to overtalk each other or interrupt women in particular. So we have strategies. Okay, what happens when you're interrupted? I'll share a really quick story with you. I had a conference to go to on the East Coast this week. And I typically like to get to the airport like at the last minute, so that I don't have to wait. And
Yeah.
like, so I get there and it's just a zoo. So I'm asking the agent, what can I do? Blah, blah, blah. And this individual, this male, walks up to her and he just starts talking while I am talking.
Wow.
So my first thought was, wow, really? Am I not? Why would he feel like his issue or problem was more important than mine? And I just said, wait, I'm still talking. And it's more of those little strategies that as women that we could put into place, so that it is, hey, I'm just as important as you are. I've got a voice here, and wait your turn.
Yeah.
So it's strategies like that we help women in particular. There's a whole class that we do for women to be more assertive in the workplace, because even the stats there, it's Forbes has one, women are 4 times less likely to initiate negotiations.
Wow.
So if we're not feeling comfortable asking for the raise, asking for the promotion, asking for the mentor, asking for the board seat, we will never have that parity that we're looking for. So there's definitely practical skills, those soft skills that we work on in those types of programs too.
So good.
Yeah.
Now, I want to circle back to a conversation we had previously had, you and I, about how brands can leverage their DEI commitment. And I want to hear just like your thoughts on that. I thought it was super interesting what you were sharing. And I don't think a lot of businesses might be thinking this way.
Right. Yeah. Again, my background is in marketing. I'm all about, okay, how can we position a brand? How can we tell this story? So when I bring that up with some of our clients, they're like, whoa, no, don't want to do that, because I don't want to appear as if I'm pandering, or if I'm exploiting the fact that we're DEI advocates. And my comment always is, well, wait, you're not pandering to anybody. You are
Right.
doing the work. just by sheer virtue that they're spending time with me, that they retained our
Absolutely. Right.
firm, they're doing the work. They're making changes. They're making impact within their organizations. So why
Mhm.
wouldn't they share that with others? And a quick example is I have a client and she made a donation. I think I'm not sure if it was Black History Month, it may have been. And she made a nice donation to an organization, a Black run nonprofit. And I said, okay, well, you're going to push that out and share with other people on social. And she said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. And I understood why, but the way I positioned it is, well, let's think about it. By you sharing that, you're giving that organization a platform that maybe they
Right.
didn't have before. You're creating awareness and you're touching other people who might say, yeah, I want to support that organization as well. So it's pandering has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
It is
Especially
about
when that
elevating
person,
that conversation.
right. If that person already decided I'm doing this, they've done it and they didn't want
Absolutely.
to do it in social media,
Yeah.
understand like you clearly came from a good place. You did
Right.
that because you wanted to. Why
Right.
not share
Right.
and to show people what else you could be doing as well?
Right. And in our cases with our clients, they come from a very authentic place. I mean, there's an example that I shared. There was an organization that we had an initial call and I kind of went over through this, what we do, boom, boom, boom. And his comment to me was, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. And it's like, okay, this isn't going to be a good fit because
Yeah.
there is some work involved.
Yeah,
And
of
it
course.
can't be okay, we're just going to check a box here. There's some work involved, but when you are doing the work, I think there's ways that you can leverage it. And again, not only from the consumer vantage point, consumers want to know what brands that they're purchasing, what they stand for,
Mhm.
but also those employees, as we mentioned before. So if you're not finding ways to leverage your DEI stance or advocacy, I think you're missing an opportunity. So
How would you like we are right now rebuilding out our careers page where you would go and learn a little bit more about us and then decide if you want to apply.
mhm.
What could you say or share on that page to make sure people know that you are focused and committed to DEI?
Yeah, there's several different things that you can include on your page, ranging from if you have a DEI mission or vision statement, what your
Okay.
commitment is. Some organizations go include a lot of content, ranging from what their objectives are, what
Mhm.
their parity numbers look like,
Yeah.
and then other organizations say, no, let's just keep it somewhat high level. Here's our mission vision, here's some of our objectives. They might have a story or two on different diverse voices within the
Okay.
organization, so you could see some of that variety. And then others can also, they'll have photos of their entire
Yeah.
team. And of course, if you have a diverse team, that's great. If you don't have a diverse team, I would probably not include that. I have
Okay, I
a
was just going to say, because that could backfire. If you're like, oh, I want
absolutely.
diversity, then look at all these white women who are 30 years old on my page and not they think you're
Yes.
going to fit in here. Yes.
Yes. So we
Okay.
have a client that has and it's a non-white organization, but it's a sea of sameness. And
Okay.
it's like, whoa, that's not going to help
Right.
with your attraction for
Okay.
talent
So
development.
know where you're at if you're in the place to show or not show, but paint the picture so that people can feel comfortable saying, this is a place I feel comfortable applying to, or
Absolutely.
I'll be welcomed here. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Oh,
Love
such good advice. Okay. Now, what is the difference between equity and equality? I feel like there are all of these words that people are mixing up in so many different ways. And I want to make sure we're all clear.
Yeah, I think that goes back to that the race.
Mhm.
So if you
Oh,
have
yes.
a equitable is being able to provide individuals with what they need. I'll go back to an example. If I'm an organization and I want to make it equitable for those women who decide to have children while they're
Yes.
working within my organization, do I need to make a provision for them if they're breastfeeding or if they want to take time off after the baby? So just making sure that you have equitable policies, practices, and procedures within your organization. And I think the when we look at women in particular, there's so many situations where an organization can put things into place and show and illustrate and demonstrate that yes, they truly are an equitable organization.
Okay, makes sense.
Because a guy doesn't, if we were to take that same scenario, equality would be, okay, yes, I have a breastfeeding room for women and I also have one for men. Well, not needed.
Yes.
Because the male doesn't need that. So it's just knowing what different individuals within your organization need in order to perform, contribute, so on and so forth within the organization.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, what are somebody like if somebody's listening right now and they know, okay, I need to really take this seriously. Like I've heard this before, but I'm not really doing anything. What are somebody's like first steps into this journey? Because like you had said before, somebody was looking for the quick fix, the check boxes, and you're like, this is going to take some work. Where do they
Right.
get started?
Right. Well, I would just start where we start all of our research is online, right? So just Google, there's several different, whether it's books, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's LinkedIn Learning. I mean, there's several different ways, podcasts, several different ways that you can just start listening to the conversation and start learning about DEI from a big picture vantage point, and then finding ways, okay, how can I make that apply to my life? How can I make that apply within my workplace and just make it so that it's customized to where you are. I don't think it's a situation where you have to spend a crazy amount of time learning all the details. I don't think that's necessary. But if you do own a business and you're leading individuals, I think it is incredibly important that you are, you have some background within DEI space, and then also that you understand what inclusive leadership looks like and some of those other practical strategies that, again, are going to help your organization perform at a higher level.
Yeah, makes sense. Where do most people or most small business owners, where do they normally start when they're trying to now incorporate DEI and just go down into make this a journey?
Yeah, it depends on where their comfort level is. Sometimes organizations will call and say, "Hey, I've got a problem. I've got my numbers in terms of a male female ratio is really off, or I can't seem to retain women, or whatever the situation is." So we'll come in and somewhat troubleshoot, identify, okay, what are some of the things that might be causing women to leave. Other organizations will say, "Hey, I just want to start with training. I just want to start to introduce this concept within the organization. I want my team to realize that, hey, this is important to us. So we're going to take some baby steps." And then other orgs come to us and say, "Okay, we're all in, tell us, walk us through the entire process and what that looks like." So it just really depends on an organization. It depends on their objectives and where they are.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Now, there are definitely some established businesses listening, and it's very obvious when you have 20 people and then you can see what everybody looks like, right?
Right.
When there's like two people or three people, it's a little bit harder, right? So when is this something that obviously you can consciously be thinking about this as you're bringing people onto your team, but at what point is it just an absolute non-negotiable where we have to really be trying to diversify the team?
Well, I think there's almost two questions there. Let's just say you do have a small team and it's three individuals. Many organizations, even if they're a small, say under 5 employees, they'll have some type of onboarding program, right? So this is what the company is all about. This is what we stand for. This is our objectives. That's when we encourage business owners to start integrating their DEI stance there. But in terms of the diversity again, I would kind of look at, okay, what am I missing? And I always look at it from a business vantage point. What do I need in order to outperform? And I've done this with our business. A lot of DEI organizations, they preach one thing and you go to their website and it's totally different. So how can you say, okay, you need to have representation, you need to have different voices and perspectives, but all of your folks look the same. So with our team, I've made a concerted effort. Yeah, I need to have males. I need to have Black women. I need to have gay individuals. I need to have, so it's really a concerted effort on my part based on me looking at the business and identifying where I might have gaps and where, again, things that I'm not, how can I find someone that's going to complement who I am in my life story? So that's the approach that I would take there.
Okay. I love that. Any best practices or even the opposite, like mistakes you've seen that you want to warn people about?
There's a ton of mistakes. I mean, there's a ton. And some of the mistakes have to do not only on an internal basis, but on an external basis. There's these just crazy horror stories of organizations, larger organizations, who produce these products and they just had a blind spot. So I'll give you an example. There was and I won't say what brand, but they produced a tennis shoe. And in the tennis shoe, it kind of had some kind of like chain thing that looked like shackles. And when you look at the product, it's like, what were you thinking or not thinking? But that tells me that they didn't have some representation or somebody at the table say, whoa, 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 whoa. That hits a little too close to home for me. And that's where you find a lot of those errors, because you might not have ill intent, but it just might not be on your radar because that's not your story. That's not your perspective.
Right.
So having somebody that can step up to the plate and go, ooh, we might want to rethink that, because
but also an environment that they feel comfortable saying,
absolutely.
Hey, I mean, because that's the thing, just having somebody there, great. But if they don't say anything, then they don't benefit you either. So that's another thing, is make the environment uncomfortable enough.
Well, and not only comfortable, that's that inclusion component, right? So making them feel like they're included enough to where they can share and give some pushback or stand up and say, okay, this is a concern that we should consider. So I mean, I think there's several of those types of best practices. And again, it affects all aspects of your business. It's at this conference that I was just at, we were talking about how 5-10 years ago, diversity, equity, inclusion was always under the HR umbrella, because it's like, okay, how do we make people feel good and employee engagement and all that good stuff? But then it's really branched out, because how do we integrate that within our learning and development? How do we integrate that within our product development? I mean, so it goes far beyond just HR now. So
I thought that's so good. Okay, Rhonda, if somebody is loving this and really wants to continue learning, where can they find you, find more details about what you offer? I'd love for you to share.
Oh, I would love to share. So you can visit our website. It's elevateddiversity.com. And there you'll get a good sense as to the types of offerings that we have, some information on our team. That's one of the things that I'm most proud about, is just the caliber of talent and expertise that we bring to the table. There's a lot of folks out there doing diversity, equity, inclusion work because it is so hot. But you really want to find someone who is well vested in the space, understands its space, understands what can go wrong, because again, this is a very delicate area of an organization. So you want to make sure that somebody understands where some of the pitfalls might be. But again, yes, it's elevateddiversity.com. And if you'd like more information, there's a link there to get in contact with us.
Amazing. Well, Rhonda, thank you for being here. I'm excited to continue the conversation with our clients very soon, but this has been just another eye-opening conversation. And I'm just so grateful for your time today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. We'll
Absolutely.
delve a little deeper. So thanks so
Yes.
much, Stacy.